Shannon, are you surprised they're taking calls for Russ at this point?
No. Skip, he's made it clear that he's not happy with a lot of things that's going on in Seattle. Seattle seems to be like, okay, it is what it is, bro. Skip, I tell the story. When Oprah bought the home that she lives in Montecito, it wasn't for sale. She knocked on the door and told the people she wanted to buy the house. And when she gave them the check, they left everything in the house and booked it. So then Seattle is saying, we're not trying to trade Russ, but if you make us an offer we can't refuse, you can have it. So that's what they're saying. Come to us with something. Now, I believe they're at bare minimum, Skip, it's a Matthew Stafford deal where you're talking about 2 first-rounders. And you might, given the success, no quarterback has won as many, Russ has won 90-plus games in 9 years, 10 years. So nobody's won as many games as he has his first years. But, Skip, for the right price, you could have Russell Wilson is what Seattle's telling. What I gather from that is that Seattle is saying, we don't want to trade Russ, but if you make us an offer we can't refuse, you could have Russ. And I believe somebody's going to come in and offer 2 first-rounders, maybe 2 first, a 2, and a 3. And Russell will be playing elsewhere. That's what that tells me, because the mere fact that they're taking calls. Skip, if something is not available, why the hell are you taking calls? You could have easily said, Russell Wilson is not available. Goodbye. But that's not what they're doing.
Okay, so you just said that you have concluded that Russell Wilson will play elsewhere next football season.
If they make, Skip, now you're not going to get him for a first-rounder, but if you make them an offer they can't refuse. If somebody says, okay, Seattle, we got 2 ones. We got, because remember, Skip, they gave up this year's number 1 and next year's number 1 for the Jamal Adams trade.
Yeah.
So if I can replenish something that I have given, replenish my coffers, why wouldn't I do that knowing that the guy's unhappy? Skip, if he's unhappy this year, what makes me so sure he's going to be happy next year if he's unhappy right now? So what can I do? It seems to me Pete, he doesn't like the control that Pete has. He doesn't like that it's the nepotism that's in the organization with Pete hiring his sons, and they carry having conversation and having input, but he has none. So Pete says, I'd just rather cut my losses now. Give me 3 number 1s and you could have Russell Wilson. I'll make it easy. Give me 3 number 1s and you could have Russ.
Okay, so is your gut feeling he will be gone sooner than later?
My gut feeling, yes, Skip. I'm gonna go 65% that Russ plays elsewhere next year.
Okay. I am willing right here, right now, to bet you 2 more cases of Diet Mountain Dew that Russell Wilson will be a Seahawk on opening day this coming football season. Want to take that?
Man, look here. What's up with all this dew you try to get up out of me, man? You know what's... Okay, fine. I give you 2 cases.
Okay, done. Shannon Sharp, to me, this is a childish power struggle that's playing out right before your very eyes. I don't think there's any way they're going to trade Russ because, A, he's just too good, and B, it would cost them $39 million in dead cap money if they trade him now. They could split it up a little bit. It'd still be $39 million if they wait until after June 1st. But I don't see either way. I just think this is a public power struggle, a PR battle, a game of chicken between a quarterback who got his feathers ruffled a little bit because he didn't have as much input as he wanted, and then an organization that said, how dare you, and you and your agent, to put out a list of teams that you would sign off on a trade to, including the Dallas Cowboys and, the rest of them. Now it's a lot of talk about the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, that's what you hoping anyway.
Well, I told you, if they would do it for just 1-1 and take Dak and we could trade problems right now, yeah, I'd take Russell Wilson, because I'm going to remind you, going back to just last August, heading into last football season, do you remember the annual players voting on the NFL.com top 100 players? It's voted on by the players on players. And remember, Russell was like 1A. He was almost number 1 to Lamar Jackson at the top of the list. And I remember they had Jerry Rice talking about, hey, to me, it's Russell Wilson, as he's the best quarterback in pro football. Well, I don't think that dramatically changed. Russell, the last, maybe 10 or 12 games last year, he started to struggle. They started to struggle. He ended up being the most sacked quarterback in pro football, and that was in large part his fault because he hung on to the ball too long trying to throw home runs. And yet he started to turn the ball over at a high rate. And then in that playoff game against the Rams at home, he had a QBR of 17 on a scale of 0 to 100. That's horrible. But remember, they did win the division last year, and we all thought it was going to be a tough division. Obviously, the 49ers fell apart, but they won it. And because they won the division, I don't think they're doing anything but bluffing each other, kind of trying to put each other back in their place. And yet, in the end, there's no way Russell Wilson's going anywhere but Seattle.
Skip, I disagree with you. I don't believe Russell Wilson is bluffing. I believe Russell Wilson would really I believe it would enhance not only his wife's career, who he loves very much, and she's an entertainer, and he wants to be close, and he wants to be somewhere. Vegas would be ideal because she could get a residency at one of these hotels.
I agree.
Perform 5 days a week.
All right.
And that would be great. His brand, Dallas would be best for his brand.
It would be.
You talk about Chicago. Markets, Russell Wilson wants to be a brand. You talk about guys wanting to copy what Tom Brady's doing. Well, TB12 is a brand. That's what they also want to call. Yeah, they want to win Super Bowl, Skip. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to think that all they care about is brand, brand, brand. Russell Wilson has won, came very close to winning again. But he also wants to monetize, let Russ cook the brand, and so he can have something after football. That's what these guys are doing now, Skip. When we play, Skip, look, you either went into broadcasting and that was it.
Yeah.
But guys have found other ways to monetize after football. And Russ is one of those guys that's looking beyond his playing career. And it would be better served if he was in Dallas, if he was in Vegas, if he was in Chicago. That's what I believe. And so I do not believe Russell Wilson is bluffing. Seattle might be trying to bluff.
Maybe.
They say, okay, Russ, we'll trade you. If you don't tamper this down, we'll trade you. Yep. Russ says, I got a no trade. You can't trade me anywhere I don't want to go.
Yeah.
But just to see, I'm going to give you 4 teams that I want to. Why don't you call them and see what they'd be willing to give you for me?
So what you're telling me is that right now, instead of letting Russ cook, they're letting Russ simmer, right? On the back burner, like, hey, we're taking calls.
Yeah. Yes. And the mere fact, Skip, that they let that out publicly. Skip, when was the last time you heard teams say, oh, yeah, we're fielding calls?
No.
Skip, they do that to Sam Darnold.
They do.
You don't do that to Russell Wilson, the guy that's won a Super Bowl, that's been a great player in this league for a long time. You don't do that to him. You do that to Sam Darnold. You do that to some guys like, oh, yeah, we try to get up off you. You don't do that to Russ.
No, I got it. But, Shannon, they're just trying to send him a very public message of we're still in charge here, right?
Right. Yeah, and he read that message and said, I got one for y'all. You're not in charge.
Okay. Well, and we'll.
But I'm gonna get my 2.
You're gonna get it.
So, hold on. When does free agency start? Skip, the 27th? No, that's the trade deadline in March. I'm trying to think, when is NFL free agency? It's soon.
All I care about right now is next Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern, because that is the deadline for putting franchise tags on people such as Dak Prescott in Dallas, Texas.
Skip, why you waiting on that? You already know what's going to happen. You know he getting the tag.
Well, I'm thinking, is there a long shot? Like, I would happily lose 2 cases to you if you told me that Jerry Jones had pulled off a trade for Russell Wilson so that we had a happy camper and Seattle could have a happy camper.
Yeah, it would take Dak and 2 first-rounders. Yeah, I tell you what, Skip, give us Dak. Seattle's going to say, we want Dak, 2 first-rounders, and D-Law.
I'd think about that. I would, because I don't think Dak's ever going to be happy in Dallas. And if you're right about they're just going to tag him just before the deadline next Tuesday, then I think we all agree that means it'll be one more year in Dallas and done, because they're not going to tag him. What's the third tag goes like 53 million or whatever.
51 million.
51 million. They're not going to do that, obviously. So that would be the beginning of the end of Dak.